Back to SPCs Unleashed. It's been a few weeks between seasons as life, travel, reflection, and other things got in the way. But having caught up on our reprise episodes, we are moving forward to some of the dimensions we haven't talked about yet. We are in the competency of enterprise solution delivery, and we are in the always entertaining yet potentially challenging hands of Nico today. Take us away, Nico.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, guys, I missed you the last weeks. So on this show, what's this show about? You will hear tips and stories on hardware end-to-end integration. That's one thing. You will listen and hear tips and stories why this dimension is essential, even if you have no large solution, because we moved somehow in the large solution core competency. How you successfully integrate suppliers is also one topic, and why you are 90% wrong with your large solution. And as a huge bonus, Ali will reveal MacGyver's first name. So if you missed the last episode of MacGyver, you will learn his name. So please stay tuned. But first, I would like to know about your passion, your special moments, surprises in this dimension of this core competency. And I would like to start with Ali.
Yay! I'm first of all surprised that nobody knew the first name of MacGyver.
My wife knew. My wife knew.
I barely know the last name.
I mean, oh my god. Okay, so this is going to be an episode full of surprises. No, just kidding. So, my passion about this this core competency. Well, I think I know I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think this core competency is the most hardware-esque out of all. Simply because some of the typical hardware challenges sort of open up, are reflected, or somehow materialize in this core competency. And the thing is, with whenever we build things that are super large and difficult, and we'd like to do that all together, hence multiple trains, a lot of people involved. I caught myself every single time to be surrounded by a group of people that collectively has a higher IQ than an average city. And it's a lot of really smart people that are constantly busy with problem solving. And that's, I think, what I like a lot, trying to constantly tweak everything. And that includes tweaking the way of working. And that's really what I like to do. And I'm going to talk way more about that during today's episode.
So I will not ask you if the surprise was how smart the people are or how fun cities are. They will stay with you. But let's go to Stefan.
Cool, thank you, Nico. I think when I hit large solution, immediately complicated. It's difficult. This is what springs to my mind. And when I sat down for the preparation, it boiled down to collaboration, right? If you want to coordinate, establish a collaboration. And that's where my passion is as a coach, passion as one who is involved as a partner as well. So it's partnership and collaboration for me.
Thank you. For me, something similar. So what I like in this dimension was that even if you're not in a large solution, you'll learn a lot of how do you successfully coordinate with suppliers, because also in normal, not large solutions, you also can have suppliers, will have suppliers. And as you heard from Ali, of course, in big solutions, you have hardware and you have suppliers and you have much more. But if you're in a smaller solution, you still need to handle suppliers. You still need to coordinate. Sometimes you can learn things about the portfolio, because there is also coordination. So for me, it's my true passion when I work in these large solution areas, how many things I can steal, even that they're not in this dimension, that are in the other dimensions, how many things I can steal and use in my normal solutions. Let's say it this way. And Mark, your special moment, surprise, passion.
My passion is reducing the number of people trying to use large solution in the world. If you think about it as the notion of a solution train, which is really the focus of this dimension, it's there to solve a problem of huge complexity, right? If I'm designing an operating system for an electric vehicle, if I'm doing the R&D for an MRI machine, it's there to solve those problems. But I believe 90% of the people in the world using large solution shouldn't be. And that's my passion is taking people who thought they needed a large solution and helping them understand that they really didn't.
Great. We share this
Nice.
passion, I think. Yeah. Really nice. Let's go to the first small theory block about coordinating train and suppliers in this dimension. And the whole core competency has new 10 practices, and 2 of them belongs to this dimension, coordinating trains and suppliers. One is manage the supply chain, and the other is solution trains and large solutions. And the first questions I like to ask to you is about the managed supply practice, sorry. And yeah, if you manage a supply chain, you realize in this large solution environment, you have external suppliers. They bring unique experience. They are strategic partners. That's why you brought them. That's why you have so many suppliers. And they have to be part of the PI planning, of demos, of inspect and adapt, of many, many safe events. And if you have a supplier chain or a supplier network, it becomes a system of system. So you have now many, many systems building together a system. And everything is a big, big, large solution. And you need alignment anyway. And product managers must continuously synchronize their roadmaps and try to maximize the value, uh, adjust things together, align things together. And with all this managing supply chain, I would like to hear from you. More dependencies, more suppliers, more regulations, more and more and more, synchronized roadmaps. How have you mastered this in your implementations? Even if there were maybe no large solutions, but this more of systems, more and more. How you mastered that? And I would like to start with Stefan.
You just mentioned it, Nico. I think although we're talking about large solutions, really large stuff, probably the first prerequisite you have to master is in such an endeavor, do we have a joint picture? Do we have, as you said, alignment, what we want to achieve before we dive into all those practices like roadmaps, solution intent, stuff like that? And what I've seen over and over again is here, especially in Europe, we start under the spell of World Trade Organization. If you have a call for tender, you have to follow certain regulations. If you issue those tenders, you have to be very precise, and people think you're ordering something, right? If you onboard suppliers, and the problem here I see is, do we have a clear picture what this supply chain of different suppliers and partners has to master also at the very beginning? So that's one of the big issues that I like to tackle very early. And SAFE calls it the managed investment of all the partners, right? Come together, paint the picture, have a roadmap, midterm, long term, and then start talking about contracts, then start talking about content, then start talking about difficulties you see, the connections you have, the dependencies that come from the different value streams. And the second prerequisite I would like to throw in is the solution intent, right? The solution intent is really dominant when you talk about this dimension, but I use it everywhere because the solution intent is creating information coherence. Also at the very beginning, where you have the as is or current situation, and then moving into what should be the current situation. So I think setting the starting line in a good way regarding those two prerequisites, let's have a picture and roadmaps. and then start combining, start coordinating, and let's have a concise repository of where the information is, where do I see what version is applicable, and where do we move forward from this point on.
Thank you. Thank you. Ali, your hardware experience, it's in your blood, or you're doing this a lot the last years. The next 15 minutes are yours. No, the next sentences.
You know, okay. The funny thing is, I don't understand why we need an entire core competency about this. Why do I mean with that? Every train, team, project team, whomever, even if you're painting your own house, you'd have some dependencies on other people. And other people have other agendas. And other agendas might completely impede your plan because, you know, you finally got the phone call, off the phone call with a person that would supply you the paint. And then all of a sudden, you know, on the day that your paint should arrive, it's not there. But this is the one day that I, you know, took a day off. I tried to push all of those calls to other days. I could finally paint my house. Now what? You know, that's the whole point. The point is that we need to somehow synchronize those agendas continuously. And this is nothing new. Back in the days, we called that the rolling wave planning. But the rolling wave planning has one huge issue, which is that the receiver of a rolling wave planning interprets it as, you know, sort of a promise. What does that mean? With the information that I have today and the activities that I have today, you know, this is how it looks like. I can commit to tomorrow, I can commit to the day after, but after that, yeah, you know, things can change because again, it's a rolling wave planning. But in large companies, if you have an R&D department or like an IT department or an environment where they do design engineering and use a rolling wave planning, and they mention that or they share that with the marketing teams, in the marketing teams, they look at that rolling wave planning and they're like, oh, nice. I know how the next year is going to look like because I've got a plan, and I'm just going to Photoshop the word rolling wave. I'm going to take that away. I'm going to Photoshop that away. I'm going to erase it. So that is a planning. I have a plan. Fantastic. So now I can build my marketing plan using the plan from all of those design engineers, and start making promises in the market, stating that there is a new product coming up, that it will be in the shelves in a certain moment in time, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Which means that typically the receiver of those, very volatile roadmaps, they misuse it. And the same applies with the activities that we do in the large solution layer, which is what I call the merged roadmap. I mean, if you have multiple trains and suppliers that all have their own milestone planning, it is very valuable to put all of those milestone plannings, sort of the horizontal timelines, on top of each other. So you have multiple trains and you have them all on top of each other. And what then happens is you'd see all of the milestones from all of the trains and suppliers on top of each other. That generates the discussion, because you might see that some milestones are out of sync and you need to recheck that and adjust that constantly. And it's a very tough thing to do, especially if you're working with external suppliers, which have maybe very strict contracts on what to deliver when. Because essentially what we're saying is we still have our milestones we use to synchronize with each other throughout the organization, but also with other companies outside of the organization. But whatever we need to do in order to reach those milestones, that should be pretty fluid. It should be, based on our conversations. So, but that's something that you cannot skip. So staying in touch with your external suppliers, whether you're ordering paint or you're ordering a mold for a specific component, you need to stay in touch with each other. So this entire layer, how I explain it, is just to enforce a operating model for communication, and doing that very frequently. And on top of that, we have a couple of people, such as a solution train engineer, solution management, that have the job of staying in touch with everybody. It's like pen pals, and everyone always has this auntie who is always on the phone with everybody, stays in touch with everybody, knows all the gossip from everybody, from the entire family. And the moment that she hears something new, she's going to call up everyone again. Like, hey, have you heard this and this happening? Well, that's I think the reason why this large solution layer exists, and how we manage dependencies amongst multiple, let's say, groups of people. What we're trying to do is just to chase each other, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds less like directing and managing, and more like communication, and more like shepherding and communicating and bringing things together, and not making a master plan with a mastermind. Okay.
Exactly.
I heard him say more like gossiping. I got to be honest, Nico.
Yeah.
Which is extremely important. Yes, you gossip with each other. Have you heard? There's this train is delayed. It's exactly.
Yeah, one colleague of mine always compares the trains and the solutions with families, and then villages, and then cities, and of course, at some point you need the gossip to keep everything together. Without it will not work. A village will not work without a lot of gossip and somebody bringing people together. So I like this analogy.
It's an information stream.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Information stream. Yes, so in my case, what I've seen, what I've done with my customers is the whole coordination, as Ali mentioned, is really important. And you said about putting all these plans one after the other, these roadmaps, and try to find gaps. We do something similar. So we people from Kegon and I learned a lot from colleagues in Germany, because they have much more larger solutions, and I have also a tendency to get rid of large solutions. So when somebody hires me for a large solution, we first have discussions how we can rid of the large solution. That's why when I have one, I hope it's one of those 10% that are needed for a large solution. What we're doing there is, so if you know the output of the PI planning, the board with the strings and dependencies, having this as a planning instrument above, and saying what is our rolling roadmaps, and which group of people don't have to be trains, don't have to be don't have to be trains. They just can be a collection of teams or only teams, and say those entities need to work together to fulfill this milestone. So having some kind of this planning board as something as an input, but still knowing it's a forecast. It's not something a 5-year plan like a Gantt diagram, which you, by the way, know only the actual date. Everything else is anyway wrong. But instead of having a pre-plan that is written in stone, having a network of strings and saying this depends on this depends on this, and this is some kind of the pre-discussions before creating the collection of features, before having features for the PI plannings of the trains. And maybe it just concerns some team members of the train, maybe it's for the whole train, but having these discussions about ideas where the planning is important and where the features go or fly or land or whatever is a very, very important at the beginning. And knowing it's not a fixed plan, it's just a weather forecast. And weather forecasts, you're good in the next hour, you're bad for the next month. That should it be. And that's how we try to solve this complex situation with more and more. Mark, you're smiling. Your experiences.
Look, I think the first legitimate solution train I ever coached, and I would say the first legitimate one, because I think about the first 4 I saw, I said that doesn't need to be a solution train. But the first legitimate one I coached, It was a multi-billion-dollar waterfall program. We were not doing hardware; it was software, but it was very complex software. And they'd been running waterfall. They launched an art to experiment with agile. They launched another art because the first art was good. They got to about 3 arts, and they were awesome, right? They were really working well. They were producing a lot of value and generating results. They needed fairly tight interaction because they were all working on the same assets. There were definitely times where one of them was doing something and they wanted to think about the fact that another art wanted to do something quite similar. So there were synergies. And we were expanding to a lot more trains because of the success of the first few ones. And there was a thread for me that said, we've got beautiful arts with great ownership of their missions and their outcomes. How do we make sure that when we put together this solution train construct, they don't lose their own identity and their ownership of their part of the mission? Because I think there's a risk that you kind of subsume in the world of the solution train. And it's like the only place where there's outcomes and mission is the solution train. So how do you maintain the missional ownership of the parts of the puzzle? And then I think the second thing is, one of the things I loved in team topologies was that they really emphasize collaboration is expensive. And so you've got to be quite deliberate about your collaboration patterns. Just because sometimes you need to have some conversations at that span doesn't mean all of the time, all of the conversations need to be at that span. So it's working out what just enough is and working out the conversations that you need to have at a broader group to figure out the subgroup conversations and when they're likely to occur. So it's really finding that tease and then going, okay, how do we simplify interaction and enable local ownership? Because if you look at, let's say, Toyota has a huge, complex, multi-layered supply chain. But they don't get every representative of every member of the supply chain together for 2-day workshops every 3 months. Having said which, when you talk to suppliers of Toyota, one of the things I say is, why we love Toyota as a customer is their planning. And it's interesting, right? Because you think about Toyota just in time. But one of the places we visited on a lean study tour, the owner of the supplier was the one talking to us. And he said, look, I supply to more people than just Toyota. But Toyota is great at giving me forecasts. And every month I know roughly what the overall demand per month is going to be from Toyota. And the demand will turn up as a series of Kanban tickets just in time. But they've given me the forecast so that I can pre-plan the way that I'm going to manage to their upcoming demand, despite the fact that the demand is going to come on very short notice. And I think it's that level setting when you think about alignment and coordination is the setting of expectations. But then I think the other thing that plays in there, just sitting in the Toyota land, is if you look at the Kaizen experts in Toyota, they actually spend a lot of their time in the supply chain working with the suppliers. So yeah, that would be me, and probably just emphasizing what a couple of you said, which is there are a lot of great tools in the solution delivery context or competency. It's a wonderful toolbox, but you don't have to stand up a solution train to use the toolbox. And I smiled because I heard all three of you say that.
Yeah.
So true.
And
So true.
I just marked one of the highlights so that I can find it again in the video and play it for my customers. Thank you, all three of you for that. So let's move now from communication and planning to doing and integrating. Another part of the theory, or another practice of the 10th, is using these large solutions, creating solution trains to coordinate these hundreds of developers, to coordinate these suppliers. And in this case, if we have now a huge beluga train having other trains inside in the stomach, we will need alignments. It's critical. We heard this before in the discussions. But now it's about more end-to-end integration, and it's still important to integrate. And their theory is saying at least every PI we should integrate, at least. In the normal solutions, we heard at least every iteration having system calls, and now at least every PI. Why at least? And there's also the answer in the article. Yeah, teams and arts building components with longer lead times, packaging, applications, hardware. Oh, hardware. And we'll still need to deliver incrementally. Sorry. So now we are in a segment where they are saying sometimes it's difficult. We still need to integrate much more often, but it's okay to miss a spot, but still try to continuous delivery. So it sounds like it's difficult. And then mention hardware, or especially hardware. Do you have any stories about how to integrate much more continuously? Because when I have hardware customers, they always tell me, oh, Nico, you're from the software world. Hardware is completely different. You cannot do this integration stuff. Come in 5 years back and then we integrate. And I think we have many experts here with more experience. And I would like to start with Oli, because he mentions always hardware. Oli, how you make it happen, and me happy maybe, that hardware people integrate more and more.
Oh my God! The question is how to make Nico happy. There's a lot of very appropriate and less appropriate answers to that.
Give him a slice of layer cake, we know that. and some green beer.
Oh, that's
This
true.
episode
Yes,
is rated R. No, it's above 18, so you can start.
No, I mean you're completely right. This is the standard statement of hardware is hard, and this agile thing comes from software, and it doesn't work for us. There's no true or false in any of those statements, because there's true and false in both statements. The difficulty is, but not the impossibility, but the difficulty is the integration part. Simple example. Imagine you're working for a company. Company creates large, very sophisticated cameras for satellites, and so that's a lot of design time that's happening there. You have electronics that need to be built and designed. You have all kind of mechanical parts that need to be created and designed with tolerances and flexing, and you would like to do save weight, so you try out all kind of materials. All of that design work happens on your laptop in all kind of CAD software and all kind of calculation and simulation software. All of that happens. But then eventually you need that physical thing. So you send out a sort of a spec sheet, a design to a lens maker, which could be, I don't know, Carl Zeiss, Canon, Sony makes lenses. So there are all kind of suppliers that develop lenses. And then you need to wait for a minimum of half a year. Or especially in these very sophisticated satellite ones, you might have to wait for another 1.5 years before you get the physical product. So does that mean that we will not do any integration for this particular component for 1.5 years? Well, I think this is where where we should try to not be black and white, and where we should search through the gray masses to find alternatives. because, well, the physical components, the physical lens, we can only integrate 1.5 years from now. But is there something else that we might be able to integrate earlier? This could be a design. This could be, therefore, a design, let me rephrase, a CAT design, a CAT version that you might integrate in other components, so that then you do that digitally. You can do that, whenever you do that digitally, you can run simulations. And whenever you run simulations, you might be able to understand, I don't know, how the materials interact with each other, which in jargon is called interfacing. See how one component works with another component, and whether there is some vibrations in one component which might impact the other component, and so forth and so forth. There's a lot that you can do earlier, and I think that's the challenge. The challenge is for us to constantly search for these earlier integration points. And it's not necessarily the physical product, but it could be sometimes even an idea. Just an idea that has, you'd like to write it down, but in order to integrate the idea, it sounds a little bit weird, I fully understand, but in order to integrate the idea with the component or module of a supplier, you'll have to also think about how your component interfaces, connects, and behaves together with the other components of an external supplier. And to do this frequently is, risk reduction. It's just risk reduction. So, if the physical component is not possible, well, then maybe you might be able to do it based on a sort of an engineering sample. So it's like a proof of concept version. Mm-hmm. If that's not possible, you might be able to do that based on an actual design, whether it's a circuit design, whether it is a CAT design. If that's not possible, you might be able to do that based on a sort of a spec sheet. So this is what we think that we're going to build, and this is how large it's going to be, and what the tolerances are that we think we are going to have. Does this work for the other? So, that's, I think, the trick. Yeah. We're trying to search for ways to integrate early. And of course, in the mix, you could have all kind of solutions, such as 3D printing. Rather than having a physical lens, can we maybe 3D print the lens? Which makes sense if you have a prototype, like a proto machine somewhere in a clean room or in a factory that you could use, that you could try out and see whether it fits. And whenever it fits, can we learn something from that? Do we need to think about another flange? Do we need to think about another another holder for the lens? All of the above. So the challenge here is to search for alternatives, dive into the gray area, because I think that's where the answer is.
Yeah, and that's the ideal springboard for me, Ali, what you just painted, this picture, right? I'm actually working in the aircraft industries, and every unit has, I call it, its workbench or workbenches, right? They know what they do. We've always done it this way. And now this lean and agile comes in. What should we change? And what we do now, we do Gemba. We go to each other. We let them demo their workbench. And what happens now, you start extending your workbench to other workbenches. Like you said, okay, let's find the integration points. Mark just painted the picture of Toyota, why suppliers internally, externally like it, because they have a forecast. They can anticipate what that means for their workbench. And now you have to talk to each other to get the Kanban signals. And how do you inspect and adapt your workbench? So, and I would throw in here first principles. Other people see your workbench, they ask silly questions, and you probably don't have an answer. And now you have to do the deep dive and say, hey, we could do it differently. And now we start connecting workbenches. And that's, as you said, Ali, how can we find earlier integration points? And by the way, you just be very transparent and you find the bottleneck, right? You find the slowest integration point. And instead of doing finger pointing, now they start working on extended workbenches. And that's what we do at the moment, still on a sheet of paper. But now we are going to where it happens, and that triggers collaboration and coordination in an easy way. And then on top, we say, okay, let's pull the structural elements of SAFE, no matter if it's a large solution or we stay on an art level, and the art level has like 10 suppliers. Same problem, but you don't have to switch the configuration. You just do it. You just pull the structural elements, and that's how it works. And thank you, Ali. Perfect springboard.
You're welcome. It's going to be 25 euros.
So,
Same to Bill.
I'm gonna pick up and keep the riff going, and I'm gonna say it doesn't really matter what problem you're solving. If you get the right smart people leaning in to find a way to do it, they'll figure ways out.
Right.
And
100%.
you know, part of it would be, if I'm in electronics, am I using FPGAs? Right. One of my hardware clients is like, FPGAs are the secret sauce. Because they give us an awful lot more stuff that we can iterate in software as opposed to having to iterate in hardware. If I go back into software land, because I know way more about software than hardware, I just listen closely when I'm working with hardware people. But, how do you deal with that complex integration problem? We've been dealing with that in software for many years. Once upon a time, we talked about techniques like test doubles, service virtualization, the right kind of shared approach to containerization, which kind of appeals to me because one of the things that turns out in the Toyota supply chain is if you're going to be in the Toyota supply chain, you have to use standard size containers. The tubs they put parts in, there is a set of prescribed sizes of tubs in the Toyota production system, and you must use prescribed sizes of tubs. And so that links naturally to my geek brain when it comes to containers. There are ways to do it, but getting yourself through those steps to starting to have some competency and some toolkit with those ways requires giving people time to figure it out. And I think this is probably the piece of the puzzle is if you talk to those guys, it's like they go, yeah, we can figure that out, but nobody would ever give us time. Yeah, we're way too busy meeting deadlines. So I think for me, if you want to achieve that end-to-end early continuous integration in any environment, it's that leadership has to prioritize time and in some cases the investment that enables that time to let smart people start to make it work. And that's the secret sauce.
We found it.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Cool. I'm still digesting what Ali said in the beginning. It sounds like you need extremely new skills, like digital twins. You have somehow to do it. You need skills like thinking about 3D prototyping or 3D printing, etc. Where can people learn more of this? Is there any books you can recommend? Any conferences, or is it already state of the art and I'm just behind the moon because I'm doing something else? Do you have any suggestions? Sorry, it's out of preparation. It just came to my mind.
No. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about a wonderful example from an RTE that I admire a lot. Not gonna give his full name, but his first name is Michiel, and I remember he telling me, and I noticed from the sides that he had tremendous trouble getting a little bit of budget to buy a 3D printer. just it's impossible. Why should we, buy that kind of thing? We don't have budget for that kind of stuff. People are just going to play with it, and it just eventually is just going to collect dust. No, we're building very complex machinery over here. So no, you're not going to get budget.
Mhm.
He couldn't care. He did it anyway. What happened? That 3D printer has been in the office, second floor, for about 3 months now. I don't think it had a single day when it was not running. Every single day, people are just creating something, printing something, and Michiel, he's just ordering more of that, the plastic wire that you need to feed into the 3D printer. But people are using it. Why? You have an idea, you would like to test it out. They design things in CAD anyway. So it's a press of a button to send that design to the software for the 3D printer, and the 3D printer just starts. And an hour later, you'd have a very complex, a very complex component that you could just look at. You might be able to, pull wires through. You could try things out. It is like giving engineers a whiteboard. Just if you have engineers talking with each other, but there's also a whiteboard in the neighborhood. Oh my God, ideas pop up instantly. And that's exactly what happens with 3D printing. It's exactly what happens with the workbenches that have been mentioned by Stefan. It's just, move away from the documentation and put those smart people that know what they can do. But make sure that they have the opportunity, the ability to sit together, as what Mark said, and figure out some brilliant solutions to problems that I don't know, I cannot conceive, I cannot figure out.
I think the other thing though
that
is,
would be, yeah.
If I just picked up on that and riffed a little bit, something like a digital twin sounds really scary. How on earth do I build a digital twin? But that'd be like you going, I'm going to go and build a complex AI from scratch instead of leveraging ChatGPT or one of the NVIDIA AIs. Right? Yes, you've got to be a rocket scientist to build the stuff they use. You need to be less of a rocket scientist to use the stuff that they use. So if you take digital twins and then you go, well, hang on a second, digital twins, they're going to model a lot of what's happening in the physical world. There's these things in the gaming world, like the Unreal Engine, that have full physics and lighting models. And I'm pretty sure it was Porsche. You might know more than me, Stefan, but I'm pretty sure it's Porsche that was using the Unreal Engine to drive the interior design on their new models. So they'd play with different fabrics, they'd play with different color combinations and cockpit configurations, and they built it all in, I'm pretty sure it was Unreal Engine. So they'd go and test drive the cars and see how their interior designs felt. And it wasn't like they had to build an entire simulation of the world. All they had to do was go, well, we've already got designers. We can feed the things our designers have into these existing physics and graphics engines that will do all the hard work for us. And then we can take test drives in our virtual cars.
I just Googled it. 2022 Unreal Engine 5, which was the Unreal Engine that had this, how do you call that? The light shading, something. What was it again?
Ridiculous advances in light shading. Yeah.
Yeah. And indeed, Porsche has redesigned the entire car in there, and could, with a click of a button, could basically adjust everything with in terms of lighting, in terms of design itself, movement, and so forth and so forth. It's really, really cool.
Great.
Let me add something to that one. and bring in the leadership perspective, right? We're now talking about doing the stuff, operationalizing tactical stuff. We shouldn't forget the impact we want to achieve, right? What is the environment those brilliant people can operate in? How do you set up the value streams, as Mark said, in a loosely coupled way that you don't think about configurations first, but who can deliver value? Where are the interfaces where we start extending the workbenches? But overall, what's the job to be done, right? So I assume that's why we have the large solution, because sometimes management wouldn't trust the independent, in brackets, independent value streams to have this maybe false feasibility. Okay, we do have solution train engineers, we do have solution management making it happen. No, it's the environment that should be set up. And as we discussed so far, let's create that platform. Let's create that environment that, a large solution does coordination in a very natural way, right?
Cool. I have one a last question before I ask if I missed anything, and I have also an extra question for you. So a little bit, I'm making you suffer today. One question, a special one, just because Marx loves this question, is which superhero's power or superhero's tool would you like to have or you need to master this dimension? Which superpower or a tool of a superhero you need to master this dimension? Let's start with Ali.
Okay, there it is. Angus MacGyver. That is Angus MacGyver. For the people that don't know the series, first of all, shame on you. Second, it's about the secret agent who, in miraculous ways, gets stuck somewhere with no tools, and he needs to get out of a situation and builds a rocket out of a pencil. It's just all kind of really smart, ingenious ways to build something really cool. There's no really a good way or one way to figure out how to improve agility. Whenever you talk about integrating very difficult large solutions with each other, and more specifically integrating a lot of people in a way, so the communication lines with each other, because to a certain extent it's really about just alignment of people that are busy with their own component, own module, or own product. We need to really tweak our way of working, find let's say these pockets of moments, sort of a heartbeat, in order to get these smart people together so that we can align together. And I think out of everything, that's maybe the most that we can do. We're not going to, as SPCs, we're not going to co-think about how to better design the machine that they are building. They know that way better, and if co-brainstorming about it might just generate a good laugh by the engineers, which I sometimes try to do, and then I figure out how stupid I still am. But it always generates some laughter. But tweaking the practices, but still remaining close to the SAFe principles or the principles of lean and agile thinking, I think that's what our job is, and that's what sort of the what the superhero skill is, to be able to tweak something together, a tool, a way of working, an agreement, just like MacGyver did with some of his tricks and a pocket knife. Essentially, our lean thinking principles and SAFe principles, that is our pocket knife. And with that, you're trying to get yourself out of trouble. And with that, hopefully, feel a little bit like Angus MacGyver.
Perfect. Stefan, you've chosen the same hero my wife would have chosen when I asked her and explained her what the show is about. Who is your hero and what is his first name? No.
That's what I exactly did. I'm not that deep into superheroes. I asked around and I said Captain America and his shield, right? So you work with other superheroes, first of all. Then you can use the shield in different ways. You can protect, right? You can protect your value stream. You can protect even multiple value streams so they are behind the shield. They feel safe. You can also use the shield and throw it, right? And you can make an impact. So what's the balance between different tasks and roles? Sometimes you have really to coordinate. You say for some it's stop, for some it's go, for some it's okay, hold on. So I think I'm no superhero. I would like to have such a shield. And as an SPC, as an SPCT, I do have it, right? It's the structural elements. It's what I know. But again, as we discussed before, come together at the workbench and talk about the tools and how you use it and how you extend it in your environment.
Thank you, Steve. Captain America. In my case, I thought also long about it. So I thought, oh gosh, I have to answer my own question. So I decided for the time stone of Doctor Strange, so to be able to see the futures, how things come together, and see, hey, this could be the best idea, but still, okay, in his case, it's one of the truths that is possible, seeing the futures. In my case, yeah, it's just being able, having a little bit of a glimpse of what is could be a possible solution or future where things come together. So in my case, will be the time stone. And Mark, now you suffered longest from all of us.
So I'm going to give Stefan a hint. A shorter way than asking around is go to your friend ChatGPT.
Aww.
It's how I made the response to Nico's torture easy. I went, off the top of my head, I can't think of a superhero with any of the powers that I want, but ChatGPT could. And I've just been cheating while you guys were talking about MacGyver to answer Nico's surprise question as well. But in the meantime, where I got led to was Owen Reese, Molecule Man.
Who in the name is that? Molecule Man?
In which universe does he exist? Yeah.
Marvel, there is only one universe. Let's be serious.
Of course, yes.
So Owen Reese can deconstruct matter at the molecular level, effectively taking apart any object or even rearranging its structure. And that is the superpower I think you need in this world.
He appeared in some Marvel comic in 1963, Mark.
Oh, that's fun,
a long time ago.
That's fun, but unfortunately, there are no superpowers. So our SPCs out, they have no superpowers. So, and this episode or this series is called SPCs Unleashed. So my surprise question, I just put it on our chat that you can a little bit prepare, because not everybody loves superpowers. Is yeah, how can we unleash our SPCs? What is your tip to SPCs to master this without superpowers?
So, having already done a little bit of sleuthing, because I had ChatGPT open anyway. I think there's one superpower that every SPC needs. And it's about the ability to ask good questions and listen carefully to the answers. And, you know, if you went into, well, who would that be if a superhero you wanted to emulate? Maybe it's Daredevil. Right? Because Daredevil was all about having the heightened senses. It's not your job to have the answers. It's your job to have the questions and listen to smart people provide the answers.
And that's my answer too, to how SPCs can unleash. Do it the old-fashioned way, ask around, plus ChatGPT, and then you create the environment of the extended workbench.
This opens
So-
this episode is sponsored by OpenAI, and yeah.
We're unleashing SPCs with ChatGPT.
Yes. Ali, do you have a tip? In your case, maybe how can be stronger in hardware, or anything they can do to unleash and help others, or to just agree?
I think SPCs would be really much helped a lot if they unleash themselves from dogma.
Mhm.
If you just unleash yourself from, the standard, let's say, sentences that you hear a lot from agile evangelists, and I think in here I'll have to copy what Mark and Stefan have mentioned. You listen and learn, and you try to ask questions and sometimes poke in certain concepts that are already there. You learn a lot, and you'll figure out that the answers are already in the heads of the engineers. I think your job as an SPC is to just have the safe principles, so the lean agile thinking, the lean thinking principles in front of you, to just constantly reflect on, what I heard just now with concurrent engineering. Is that something that reflects to any of these principles? And and have that kind of brainstorm. I think that would be my that would be my statement.
Perfect. Let's summarize in one sentence. What would it be? Let's
Who
start
goes
with Mark.
first?
9 times out of 10, when you think you need a solution train, you're wrong.
+1. My sentence would be, if you like songs, that we are all in this together, or the other one would be, suppliers are in the same boat. Treat them like in the same boat. Ali.
I'm just copying you. I said supplier relationships are more powerful than supplier contracts.
Yeah.
And I'll
Stefan?
pick it up, and I would say coordination relies on the synergy between different partners. We're in it together.
So close to each other.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. So I was also surprised when I read the board, and I think Mark will show it the Miro board again, like the other episodes. It's about measure and grow, coordinate trained suppliers, which is your one and only or most important measure to measure. Yeah, who wants to start first and explain why his one is best? We have not all the same opinion.
In fact, for the first time in a while, 4 different opinions.
Exactly.
I think we're going to
Yeah.
go top to bottom, Ali.
Yeah.
So I chose if I need to measure one thing in this core competency, I selected suppliers act as arts by aligning roadmaps, continuously integrating assets, and participating in solution train events. A little bit related to what I've mentioned earlier with those merged milestones. Treating suppliers as just another stakeholder in your system. I think if everyone just works together frequently, that's what I would try to look at if I would like to figure out whether there's the solution train or the collaboration or the agility in collaboration is maturing or not.
Yeah, and I heard what you told before. I should only choose one and not the whole history. So I first thought integration is the most important thing, and then I thought, yeah, integration is boring. We had this already. People know integrate, integrate, integrate. Why mention this? Then I thought what is really unique in this core competency or in this dimension is the idea of this pre-planning thing. Also, that's why I've chosen solution train leaders align arts ahead of their PI planning events on upcoming capabilities and cross-art dependencies. Align, not dictate. Please align. Stefan.
I tended first to retrospectives, inspect and adapt, And based on my experience in such environment, I chose integrations, leverage simulations, mockups, and test doubles to address costly, scarce, and long lead time solution elements. I need data. I need the real life to show it works or it doesn't work. And then probably we need some formal inspect and adapt stuff to then address those issues in a systemic way.
Okay. Mark?
And then, lucky last, I went solution level inspect and adapt improvement items are addressed. And there's a piece where that feels a little bit of a cop-out to me because, realistically, that's just relentless improvement. But I looked down the long list and it was like, where do I get excited? I liked all three of yours. They were all contenders for me, but I'm always about continuous improvement, so I can't help myself.
Great. But still, there was something missing for you, Mark. If you can invent a new measurement, which one was missing for you?
Well, we all had something to invent, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was the cost of coordination reduces each PI.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How much effort does it take you to maintain alignment? How many times do you need lots of people in conversations, either trying to reach alignment or recovering from getting out of alignment? You are improving your system. You're evolving when that goes down.
Yeah. What I tried to put in my case was something like, in this dimension, you need exchange with other people. I would like to measure this somehow, that you go outside, talk with people. This was some kind missing. I cannot invent everything by myself, and I need exchange for this thing. So how often, how do you exchange with other companies, other experts to master this continuous integration aspect? Because it's not easy, and it's not so much written in the papers, in the articles. Ali.
I had to think about this one for a bit. I thought about if I would like to measure anything. What I'd like to measure is the frequency of alignment amongst trains and frequency of alignments amongst trains and external suppliers. So if that increases, and typically the alignment would happen on these merged milestones overview, essentially.
Yeah.
If that increases, then there's more communication back and forth. Therefore, there's more transparency to each other in terms of progress, in terms of any potential, delivery slip. So I don't know. I thought maybe that would be a good one.
Cool.
And I'll second Ali, because what I see over and over again is still plan adherence is still predominant. We have done PI planning, we've done those coordination sessions, but then it's plan adherence instead of continuously improve, integrate, talk about how we get better over the time.
Team, thank you very, very much. We run 2 minutes over because you talk so slow, but it's okay. I'll let Mark close the episode and tell us what's next.
So thank you, Nico. Next week, we're going to stay in the world of enterprise solution delivery, and we're going to go to lean systems engineering. And this is going to be an interesting one because by convention, each show we do, whoever's hosting actually talks less than anybody else and offers less stories than anybody else. And if you haven't figured out how much of a geek Ali is about lean systems engineering by now, then you haven't listened to many of our talks. But he's our host next week, so I look forward to seeing him navigate that. Join us to hear a little bit more about lean systems engineering and what that competency might mean to you. Which brings us to the conclusion of our standard show. Heads us into retrospective land for those who enjoy watching agile coaches run very simple retrospectives.
See you.
Alrighty.
Retrospective land. Boom, boom, boom.
Yes, let's see. Okay. We're gonna have a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
2
Hours.
minutes. 2 minutes. I'm putting it on the clock.
Got it. Alrighty. That's 2 minutes.
It is. Do we need another minute or are we done typing?
Done.
I think I'm good.
Good.
All right. So playback. Everything in Keep Doing feels mostly interlinked.
Yeah.
The ABC story sequence that we've kind of iterated our way towards over a few episodes works well because I think it links to those post-its on the left, right? We can see where it's meant to go. And it gives
Yeah.
you the confidence to go, I'm going to jump. And it was interesting how much we built on each other. So I know when I did my homework very late, I looked and you were all actually fairly aligned in what you'd said. And then I wrote my stuff where I felt like I was very different. But then the instant we all started actually talking today, it was like, no, actually, we're just +1ing each other.
Yeah. It was a very boring episode. We're just saying the same things. We're just aligned with each other. There is no fights. No, just kidding.
It was nice to be human in the middle of it too. The occasional breaks to informal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. More doing, agree, dynamic groove. I must confess, I was watching my clock because Ali got very excited. He did an early story.
I just see it happens again.
We need an additional
and-
session about those topics, guys.
And I was excited too. That's why I didn't stop him. So I had the chance to interfere, and I thought it brings some kind of value. But yeah,
But it's
But
good.
it's okay
And
there.
the way when you made your call, you just made it very visual on the Miro. It was like instantly, okay, I'm going to chill out now. Nico's got a plan. We know what it is. and we just stay in flow. So for me, I
Exactly.
mean, it wasn't the first time we've dropped a question,
Mhm.
but it was the first time we've done it via the here's a great big signal you can't miss on Miro. And that was very good.
Thank you.
All right. Less doing. I wonder whether the reference
Yes, I wrote.
sources are being used.
Yeah, we always have this table in the top right corner of our, let's say, workspace, and it's getting emptier and emptier by the episode.
I must confess, I literally hit a point where I stopped bothering with it.
Mhm.
Do we
Which
simplify
is,
the Miro?
If
I would remove
if we
it.
don't use, if it's not part of, I don't know, some show notes that we always do, and if that doesn't add any value.
I know when I do show notes,
Then,
if one of us mentions a book, I put that book that what the person mentioned in the show notes.
Mm.
Okay.
So that's kind of the system for me is some episodes, 2 or 3 book names will come out. Different people will get excited about them. I'm like, okay, they make sense to add. And
Okay.
I know I'm going to mention a couple of book names next week.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we just save ourselves the work because it's like those frames are the leftover from version 1 of the show, which used to be what dominated our conversation.
Yeah, correct.
But it was a different format then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, drop the tables. Done. Start doing being on time. Yes, I'm sorry, Nico.
I'm just wondering how much I should push it because I thought about just removing the additional measuring, then it would be on time or not.
Oh, I thought
so
you were
if-
talking about being on time with your homework.
Oh no! Being on time. Sorry, being on time with we are on the time box. Sorry, we have a 60 minutes episode. So I thought if I stick to 60 minutes, I would just also remove the additional measurements. But there's some kind. I expected more dialogue. That's why I let it in. Stick to time box. Thank you. That's what I'm wondering. So it's okay if we run 5 minutes more, or is it something we should stick under 1 hour? It's a question. I can live with both.
Let me flavor in. By the time we do dead air removal, that usually trims 4 minutes or so off it.
Okay.
So long as we stick in like an hour and 5, we're fundamentally sticking to the 1 hour time box.
Okay, perfect.
We shouldn't create a situation where the spectators feel, oh, they're pressured to finish on time.
Yeah.
If there's a discussion, a few more minutes, I'm fine with that.
And also this extra question is also part of it. So I thought I would like to rush more, but I realized our discussion had not so much tips for the SPCs. That's why I added the extra question, and that costs us also some minutes. And if I know I have to stick on the time, I have either think about what do I remove afterwards. Would have been the extra measurements, and now I have more flexibility as a host to say, okay, if I run 3-4 minutes over, it's okay. That's why I'm asking this question because for me it's okay, but it should be okay for the whole team.
It was certainly okay with me. I like the fact that you gave us the forewarning because it meant that you could do a little bit of pre-thinking about it before the moment came, as opposed to So
and
it
by
was
the way,
fun by me. Sorry,
and by the way, most of us answered the extra question together with the superhero question. Ali went into, I tried to scratch on what if you're not a superhero already. So I like those extra questions. If you weave them in, you don't even have to ask them.
Yeah,
people pick it up from the chat.
But it was
So
good.
I
that
noted down.
I'd switched back to watching the main channel there.
Yeah.
Because Sammy dropped in on this one and started listening. And then started sending me direct messages going, Dad, you've got to adjust the video lag.
Go, Sammy.
I was backwards and forwards for a few seconds. She's like, at 100 milliseconds, not to you, yours is fine, but the sync on the guys is not good. So I added 100 milliseconds. And then she went,
Oh, I like her
that feels
so much.
better, but I think actually you've probably gone a little bit far. Can you drop 20 milliseconds? And then she decided that Ali's internet connection must be dodgy because he was slightly out of sync with everybody else.
Okay. Welcome to the team.
I like her so much.
Okay.
And then eventually I got out of being fixed by my daughter and jumped back into the back channel and went, oh, there's a surprise question coming.
I see. We need a tech session down under, somewhere, somehow.
Yes, and get some lectures from Professor Sammy.
So speaking of tech
Professor
sessions,
Sammy Richards.
When we had our retro, we talked about doing a extended OBS, etc., session together. Did we want to plan that for some time in July?
That could be helpful because I feel I'm probably the guy that's lagging the most. Ali is a pro. Nico is becoming a pro. Yeah,
Starting it.
Need the session.
I'm not a pro at all.
You obviously found some usefulness in the things that he chose to share in the Philippe Nardo thing, Nico. Seeing that you used his scene collection.
Yeah. I did.
This kind of stuff.